So we're joined for the very, very first Bookwanderers Club live book club with the wonderful Robin Stevens. Thank you so much for coming and doing this.
Thank you for having me. This is great.
I'm just mainly thrilled that the technology is working, which is always a relief. This is the first time I've done anything like this, so thanks for bearing with us, me. So yeah, we are going to have a chat about Robin's writing and books. Robin's going to do a couple of readings. There's going to be a chance for you to ask some questions, and then Robin has got a writing prompt for you as well to finish off with. So I think that to start off and give everyone a chance to sort of get online, Robin is going to do a quick reading from her most recent we'll get on to the special world of books, the most recent full Murder Most Unladylike mystery. So
yes.
Yeah, Robin's gonna, if you could just give us a quick introduction to the book and do a couple of minutes of reading.
So this is Top Marks for Murder. This is the 8th full-length murder mystery in the Murder Most Unladylike Mysteries series, which you can read in any order you want, by the way. If this is the first one you want to pick up, that's fine. This book is set at Deepdean School, the school where my two detectives, Daisy and Hazel, go to school with their best friends, Kitty, Beanie, and Lavinia. And I'm going to read to you from the very beginning of Top Marks for Murder. This is the moment when Beanie, Daisy and Hazel's friend, looks out of their dorm room window and sees a murder. It was Friday morning, the 3rd of July, and the 5 members of the Detective Society were up in our dorm after breakfast. There were 4 minutes left until the first school bell, so we were busy piling books into our school bags and doing up our ties and chattering. Beanie had been standing by the open window, warm summer morning air breathing over her, staring out at the green tangle of Oakshott woods as if in a dream. And then she turned round and made her announcement. She said it quite quietly in rather an awed voice, as though she could not believe the words she was saying. We all stopped talking and stared at her. "What did you say?" asked Daisy, sitting bolt upright with a bounce. Beanie was frozen, her fingertips clutching the window frame, and then she gasped and shook herself and pointed her finger out at the woods. "I've just seen a murder," she said. "Come and look quickly. There he is on the ridge." We all rushed over and crowded round her at the window, staring out at the woods. Our house is on Oakshott Hill, above Deepdean School, and our dorm faces away from the school buildings towards the main wood itself. And so in front of our eyes was nothing but green leaves and blue sky, and the next high hill with trees standing up at the top of its ridge. "Where is he? Where?" asked Daisy frantically, turning her head from side to side, as though there might be a murderer behind each tree. "He's gone," said Beanie with a little gasp. "He must have ducked down after her, but he was there and she was there, and then he put out his arms and, oh, he choked her to death. I saw it." She was shaking. Daisy looked at me swift and sharp, and I knew what she meant. She believed Beanie. It is true that Beanie does not lie, at least not on purpose. If she says something, it is at least true to her. And if Beanie had seen a crime, then this was a moment for the Detective Society. And that is the moment when Beanie sees a murder. And to find out what happens, you'll have to read the book.
Amazing. And I'm reassured to see we have people online and people are saying hi. So hello very much. I can see that George is online. Hi, George. So the first book came out way back in 2014. I remember getting it when I worked at the bookseller. Just so everyone's up to speed. I know you must get asked this all the time, but can you remember what was the first kind of seed of the idea for the series? Was it Daisy and Hazel, or was it the murder mystery? Where did the whole series kind of grow from?
So I first had the idea for Murder Most Unladylike, I think probably about 10 years before I even wrote it, because when I was 13, I was already a huge murder mystery fan. I read my first Agatha Christie when I was 12. I was really into that. And then I was sent to boarding school at Cheltenham Ladies College, which was very posh and very old. And I remember thinking when I was there, this would make the most amazing setting for a murder mystery. And so the idea in my head of 2 girls, friends at school who solved a murder was sort of just sitting in my head for years and years. And then in, I think, 2010, I decided to sit down and actually make it a reality and write what was going to become the first draft for NaNoWriMo, which is an online challenge where you try to write 50,000 words in a book in a month. And when I sat down to write that, I had Daisy and Hazel's names. They came really early. I always knew what they were going to be called and who they were, like their backgrounds and their characters. And then I literally wrote down, they find the science teacher lying dead in the gym. And that was it. There was nothing else. So I just started writing, and I wrote 50,000 words, but I was writing so fast that nobody but Daisy and Hazel had names, and the ending didn't go anywhere. I got really confused. I didn't really know how to write a murder mystery. But yeah, from the very beginning, the idea of a murder at a boarding school, and Daisy and Hazel were there.
That leads on to the thing that I am constantly amazed by your books, is just how you plot the murder mysteries themselves. So how did you learn how to do it, and how do you keep track of it all and plot it out? So, you know, because the good thing, you know, murder mystery, it has to be that when you find the reveal, you have to, you know, it has to be that balance of satisfying but not so complicated that it just feels like it's come out of nowhere. So yeah, how do you do it?
I mean, partly I've learned by reading a lot of murder mysteries. I am obsessed. You can't see, but on the wall behind me is loads of murder mysteries that I've collected over the years. I also studied crime fiction at university, which was really useful. It helped me learn the genre. But I had to teach myself how to plot. And as I say, when I wrote the first draft, there was no plot. It was just Daisy and Hazel arguing. And I had to learn how to sort of drop clues and set the scene. These days, I make a really careful plan of the time of the murder. I do an Excel spreadsheet with all of my characters, where they are at each sort of 5-minute or 10-minute interval during the crime. And before I start even doing that, I've written down who the murderer is, why they did it, how, when, where, who else is there, what the setting is. And I've actually shared a video about that before, so people can go online and have a look or Google it. I've talked about it a lot. But I do a very set sort of things together to sort of plan, and planning the crime is really important. But once I've planned the crime, then I can go and write the book.
Okay, and I'll make sure when I upload this as a sort of permanent video, I'll leave a link to Robin's channel in the description, so you can watch all her videos where she talks about all sorts of things to do with Murder Most Unladylike. You mentioned that you love reading mysteries. What are some of your favorite murder mysteries by other people to read?
Obviously Agatha Christie. She is my sort of main inspiration. I love her. Also an author called Josephine Tey, who is much less well known than Agatha Christie, but she's written a book called Miss Pym Disposes that's set in a girls' boarding school, and somebody is found dead in the gym, and it definitely inspired Murder Most Unladylike. So those are my two sort of classic crime books that I love. I also really like, these days, children's crime. Sharna Jackson's High Rise Mystery is absolutely fantastic. I also really like Catherine Woodfine's books. I think they're brilliant. And for adult books, I really like Ruth Ware. I think her crime murder mysteries are brilliant for adults.
Amazing. And I think we're going to have Sharna and Catherine as guests on the book club.
Fantastic.
More murder mystery to come. So we've alluded to it, and I'm sure that fans of yours will already be very aware, but of course you wrote a book for World Book Day this year. So I was hoping that you could tell us a little bit about it, and then maybe give us a little bit of a reading from it.
Yes. So The Case of the Drowned Pearl is my World Book Day book this year, and it was such a privilege to write, because I have memories of being a child and getting my World Book Day token and going to buy books. I bought the J.K. Rowling Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, which is a bit of a blast from the past. But yes, so I have so many memories of doing World Book Day as a kid, and so to be able and to be asked to write one of the official titles for this year was fantastic, and to be part of their amazing Share a Story campaign was just a wonderful thing to do. And this is the short story that I've written to be a good window into the series for people who have never read the books before. I introduced Daisy and Hazel and their friends Alexander and George in a way that I hope is going to be really accessible to everyone. But if you're a fan, I hope you'll also love it. It takes place just a few months or month after Top Marks for Murder. And it takes place during the summer holidays. And Daisy and Hazel and Alexander and George go to the seaside. They go on a seaside holiday. And Hazel, who was born and grew up in Hong Kong, assumes this is going to be the kind of beach that she is used to, very warm and sunny. And then, of course, she gets to the English seaside and realizes it is not that at all. It is pouring with rain. It is awful. And this is something that happened to me. I was born in California and grew up for the first few years of my life there. And then I came to England, and suddenly everything was grey. And all of my friends who go swimming in the sea, who are British and Irish, I don't understand. I can't, no. And so Hazel really has my feelings in this book. But they go down to the seaside one day to swim, or at least Daisy wants to swim, and they find the dead body of a famous athlete, a famous swimmer who is about to compete in the Berlin Olympics that summer. And so I'm going to read again the moment when they find the body. And this is narrated by Daisy. In this book, Daisy and Hazel sort of switch who narrates each chapter, which is a new thing I did, and I really enjoyed it. So, the day had begun misty, and gulls went sweeping above my head, screaming. They were the only things that moved in the stillness apart from me, and I ran and ran across the road, over the front, and onto the beach as fast as I could to make the world wake up. I went rattling down the pebbles towards the sand and the sea. The tide was going out, lapping gently away from the silver sand. The others were following behind me, too slow, and that was why I was the first to see the thing huddled on the shore. This thing was lying on the stones just above the high tide mark, next to a clump of seaweed stretched out like a hand. I looked at it, all lumpy and discarded in the mist, and I thought to myself immediately, that's a dead body. I assumed I was being hopeful and romantic, but I ought to have learned to listen to myself by now. My instincts are always brilliant, and so they were this time. What's that? Said George sharply from behind me. A seal, said Alexander. I cannot understand how Alexander's mind works. Whoever heard of a seal wearing clothes? It's not a seal, said Hazel. Look, it's in a bathing suit. It's a body, I said, quite certain at this point. Quickly, cried Hazel, they might be hurt. She and Alexander hared over to it, kneeling down on the pebbles to shake its shoulders and pat its cheeks. It's a woman, the swimmer from yesterday, gasped Hazel. I turned to look at George. She's dead, isn't she? He asked me, and I nodded. Said Alexander, sitting back on his heels. There's something I think you should... Come here, will you? She doesn't smell right. I leant down over the body and sniffed. I hated to admit it, but Alexander was perfectly correct. I ought to have smelt nothing but the sea, salty and sharp, but instead I got a whiff of something else extremely familiar. She smelt clean, soft, and fresh. It was the scent of Pear's soap. She's taken a bath, I said, and she hasn't been in the sea since, or it would have been washed off. But why would you take a bath and then go to the beach? Asked George. I was still kneeling to peer at the body, and I noticed it had flecks of something on its shoulder and more on its arm. I thought at first they were hairs from its head, but they were the wrong color, a much darker, richer brown, and far too short. My heart was beating fast. We had a dead body, a strange smell, and some unknown hairs. This felt very much like the beginning of an excellent murder investigation. And that was when a man came running at us out of the mist. And again, to find out what happens, you'll have to read the book. But I can also say that it is a proper murder mystery in only 12,000 words. Normally, my books are about 65,000, so this was quite difficult.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's an impressive feat, constructing a
squeezed
murder mystery. Yeah. Speaking of full-length murder mysteries, also I can see, thank you for everyone who's asking questions. I am paying attention. If I was smiling at an inappropriate point during the reading, it's because I'm reading the comments, not just giggling at murder. But yeah, I want to talk about Murder Most Unladylike 9. And is it all finished? Is it all done at your end?
Yes, so today I'm sending off the copy edits to it, so it's going to go off and be turned into something that looks like an actual book. Up till now it looks like a Word document, it's just me typing, but it's going to be laid out in this sort of format. I'm going to have one more chance to check it, and then it will go off to be printed. So it is nearly done, and it will be coming out on the 6th of August this year.
Amazing. And the title hasn't been announced yet.
The title, so I knew the title, and my amazing illustrator Nina Tara is working on the cover right now, and when she's done that, we will be revealing the title and the cover. I hope next month. I'm not quite sure, but it will be soon, and I am very excited about it.
I know this is an annoying question. Can you give us what are you allowed to say about it?
So all I can say is basically what is on the official blurb, which is online, and that is that Daisy and Hazel are invited to Egypt to come and visit their friend Amina from school. And Amina lives in Cairo. And Hazel's father and her two little sisters also come and takes them on a Nile cruise. And somehow George and Alexander also turn up, and you will see how that happens. And then they're all caught up in this murder mystery when one of the other boat passengers is murdered. And even though the detectives think that this is just yet another exciting murder mystery, it is actually one of the most dangerous and deadly they have ever detected, because at the end of this book, one member of the detective society will not come home again.
How did you feel about finishing this series that you've been kind of working on and has been part of your life for so long, and kind of let you become a full-time author? What did it feel like finishing it?
I mean, it's been 10 years of my life. I first thought of the idea and started writing it in 2010, and of course it's 2020. So it's been a third of my whole life, and Daisy and Hazel have lived in my head, and they feel so real to me. They really do feel like, my friends. And so saying goodbye to this series was massive. I spent a lot of time crying during writing, and I still cry every time I get to the end of it. But this has definitely felt like the right time to move forward to the next thing, and the right time to finish this chapter of the story. So yeah, I'm really lucky and really pleased that I've managed to finish it in a way that I've always been imagining. And I will be able to say more on this this summer.
Okay, to look forward to. I can see people asking questions that I'm not going to answer about people dying. We're not going there, I'm afraid.
I can't say it. I can't.
Yeah. So no clues there, I'm afraid. Right, I have a couple more questions, and then I'm going to go through some of these questions that are coming in. So thank you for sending them. Please do send any more questions that you've got, although we won't be doing any spoilers, I am afraid. So 2 more questions. Firstly, although actually I suppose we've kind of done this, I was going to ask you if readers have enjoyed your books, what you might recommend them, but I suppose you've sort of spoke about Shana Jackson and Catherine Woodfire.
Yeah.
Are there any others?
I would say that if you've loved my books for a long time and you're starting to feel like you might be moving on beyond them a bit, a really great book to read is Holly Jackson's A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. It is sort of the YA version of mine, contemporary, but it's a girl who solves a murder. It's brilliant. I absolutely love it. The sequel is out next month, I think, and I'm so excited about that. Also, Karen McManus's books are great. One of Us is Lying, One of Us is Next, Two Can Keep a Secret. I think they're actually behind me. I'm reading Two Can Keep a Secret at the moment. So yeah, there's a lot out there for murder mystery fans, which is brilliant.
And then I have a question, a book wandering question, as this is officially called the Bookwanderers Club. So for people watching, so my series called Pages and Co, and my two heroes my main characters can book wander inside of their books. I would love to know that if you were going to book wander inside one of your books and help Daisy and Hazel with one of their mysteries, which one would you choose?
I think that I would probably go for First Class Murder. I love trains, I love travel, and I love Murder on the Orient Express, the movie and the book. So that I think would be the most fun setting to travel to. Or possibly Death in the Spotlight as well. I do like theatres, visiting them.
Yeah, excellent. And so every sort of episode of this that we do, we're asking our lovely authors to kind of recommend an independent bookshop that they love, and there is obviously no obligation to buy people's books, but if you are, we're really encouraging people to support independent bookshops at the moment. Well, we're all stuck in our houses for a bit. So Robin, which is the bookshop that you'd like to kind of shine a light on and recommend?
So I am choosing Round Table Books in Brixton. They're the most amazing independent children's bookseller. They focus on diversity in all its aspects. I think they're brilliant. They are tied to Knights of, which is independent diverse publisher, and they are wonderful people. And I would recommend that you all go and use their brilliant online store.
Fab. And we will leave links to that in the description. And also, if you want to buy Pages & Co, I've got a set up with my local independent, the Children's Bookshop in Muswell Hill, where you can buy signed copies from them as well. So we'll leave links to both of those independent bookshops down below. Right, I want to get through some of these questions. I am thrilled that there's so many of them coming in. Thank you so much, everyone who is watching. And firstly, we need to say hello to Alice Hart, who is being very insistent about asking if we can say hello. So hi, Alice. Thank you for watching.
Hi, Alice. Hello.
Okay, so I'm going to scroll up to the top to start with, so that people who are tuning in at the beginning don't miss out. So the first question is Patricia, who says, how did you think of Lavinia?
Ooh, her character or her name? So her name is from an American book that I used to love called I Am Lavinia. And I don't know if anyone has read it, it's quite old, but it's that same kind of like stubborn, insistent character that Lavinia is. So I think that was where her name and a bit of her character came from. I would say that she's my character who gets really angry a lot and gets really cross. And that's something that I like to write about. I think there aren't enough really cross girls in books. Girls, I think, aren't really supposed to get cross, but I do a lot. And I think that's sort of where Lavinia's crossness comes from. And she's the person in the book who gets angry in the way that I do.
Okay, I love that. I love that. We have a question from Tor, although I think I know that some of these people, this is parent, I think there's parent account. So I'm just using, sorry if you're watching and I'm not using your actual name, I'm just using what name the account is. But Tor has asked, which is your favorite character from your books?
I love them all. I think Hazel is my very favorite character. I think she is such a kind person, such a nice person. I love that she's a bookworm like me. I think she's the person I'd like to be friends with. I love writing about Daisy. She's so naughty and brave and sort of fearless.
Oh, Sharon has asked, is there any, can you tell us something about maybe TV or film to do with any of your books?
So the weird thing about TV and film is, like, I always thought that as the author, I would be totally in control and I would make it happen or not. But it has literally nothing to do with me. All I can do as an author is wait to see if somebody wants to pick up the rights. And I have my fingers crossed. I do think it will happen. I do think it's going to take a little while. A lot of TV companies are anxious about a children's murder mystery show. Don't know why. But I do think it will happen. We just have to wait and we have to hope.
Yeah, no, that's something it really, it's so out of your control as an author whether these things happen. It really is. A couple of people have asked if you can say anything about what you might write after Murder Most Unladylike.
I literally can't. I can't until the summer. And at that point, I will be able to say more. I do have a lot of ideas in my head. Things are happening, but it's a secret for now.
Yeah, okay. So more soon on that front. Yeah. Okay, so, well, I know that this isn't Julia. I know this is George. Hi, George.
Hi.
Would like to know, do you listen to music while you write?
I don't normally listen to music while I write, just because I'm so focused on the world of the story that it almost feels like a distraction to have words, because I'm somebody who listens to the words in music rather than the music itself. So I get very caught up in lyrics. But when I'm editing, I do start listening to music. I've just been playing the latest Harry Styles album again and again and again as I was editing and before that I was into Billie Eilish. So yeah.
Oh, interesting. I listen to a lot of film soundtracks while I'm writing because I'm the same. I can't have music with words, but I find I have like different playlists for like 10 scenes or like emotional scenes, and it really gets me in the zone. Katie Webber would like to know which mystery did you have the most fun writing, and also which one was the hardest to write?
Most fun, I think it was probably Death in the Spotlight. I really liked the twist of that one. It was one of the ones where I had a good idea and it sort of stayed a good idea all the way through. So I didn't have the thing I normally do where I get really frustrated by the story when I'm sort of halfway through it. The most difficult one, I think two were most difficult. A Spoonful of Murder is really difficult because I was writing about Hong Kong from the perspective of somebody who grew up there, and of course I didn't. And so that was really hard to make sure I'd gotten all my details right. I got all the sort of atmosphere and the sense of living in Hong Kong right. I did go visit it, which was amazing. And I think the other hard one to write was book 9. And that was, again, because I had to go travel to Egypt before I could really get the sense of what it was like to be there. And the first draft, I hadn't gone when I wrote the first draft, and it was a little bit lacking, just because I didn't know so many important things yet. So it's the ones to do with travel always that are the hardest.
Yeah. Sarah M has asked why you said at the start that you knew they were Daisy and Hazel right from start. So Sarah asked, why did you call them that? So did they just come into being like that?
It's just, I don't know. I genuinely don't know. Sometimes that happens. You just get an idea and it's always been that way in your head. You can't trace it back. I think that their names go together because they're both sort of floral names. They're both like natural names. And then the W and W were sort of seemed to go together, nice alliteration of their names. But yeah, just the idea of who they were as well were always there. I knew I wanted one girl who had been born in England, one girl born in Hong Kong, because that was sort of the makeup of my friend group. So I was really wanting to write about my own friends and me and our own school life, and that was where Daisy and Hazel came from.
Oh, I'm going to ask you this, although you might not be able to answer it, but someone wants to know, and I had this question actually on Instagram as I asked the questions, is can you tell us how many murders there will be in book 9?
I can't, because if I do, that reveals a lot of what might happen or not. It's more than none murders. It's like it's more than 0.
Okay, we'll take that. And we also have a few people asking, how is Watson? And perhaps you should tell everyone who Watson is if they're not aware.
Yeah, so Watson is my bearded dragon. She is, of course, my sidekick, which is why she's called Watson. Sherlock Holmes' sidekick was called Watson. If you will bear with me while I open her cage, there might be a noise, but I'm going to get her out. She's right behind. No.
Amazing.
There she is. Hello. She's about to shed, actually. She needs a bath. But here's Watson. She is quite old. She is 10 years old. I got her when I was 22, and I'd always wanted a pet bearded dragon when I was a kid. My biology teacher, Mr. Brown, had 2, and I was just obsessed with them. And so when I left university, I was thinking about what I wanted to do with my life. And the first thing was I wanted to write a book, and that obviously became Murder Most Unladylike. And the second thing was I wanted a bearded dragon, and that became Watson. So obviously I was living the dream.
Yes, love it. Okay, 2 more questions. Firstly, someone has asked for Alice, who's 6, what would be the best book to start with? And obviously the first one is the natural answer, but are there ones, if people sort of are overwhelmed by how, like, the whole series, are there other ones other than the first one that you'd recommend that you could maybe read more as a standalone book?
I like First Class Murder because it introduces Alexander, who is the junior Pinkerton representative, and that's the other detective society in the books. I would also say I would the first one or the third one, maybe. A lot of people have started with Death in the Spotlight, which is fine. You can really start anywhere you want.
Okay. Right, and then the last question for now, because it leads nicely into the writing prompt, is lots of people are asking for writing tips for their own stories that they're writing.
So I would say, sort of generally, people ask me about becoming an author, what you need to do to become an author. The only 2 things you need to do are the easiest things in the world. You need to be reading a lot of books, and you need to be writing a lot of stories, and that is it. It doesn't matter what kind of books they are. It doesn't matter what kind of books you want to write. Go and have fun with words. Basically, that is it. I would say that you probably want to do a bit of a plan, like a tiny bit of a plan, just even a couple words about the story you want to write. It's good to be reading the type of story you want to write to give you ideas and inspiration. That's something that authors do all the time. I read a lot of murder mysteries because I write them. I do plan my crime very carefully, but it's just go for it. Pick up a pen. Don't worry about being not perfect. Don't worry about writing something that isn't great. My first drafts aren't great. That is the nature of what a first draft is. You just have to learn to go back and edit it and make it better. But yeah, it's something that anyone can do and get better and better at.
Great. Which leads us on nicely. I'm sorry if we haven't answered your question. Thank you so much for all of you who've asked them. And I've tried to pick out the ones that lots of people are asking. So thank you for everyone who's asked a question. If you haven't had an answer, it is worth going and looking at Robin's videos on her YouTube channel, because I have seen some of these questions that I know Robin talks about in her video. So do go and look at her videos and you might get your question answered. So talk about writing. Another thing we're going to ask every author who comes on is to give you a writing prompt or an activity or something you can go and do this afternoon or over the weekend to have some practice with those writing tips. Robin, you're actually going to do a writing prompt every Monday, aren't you, on your website?
I am. Yes. So I've started writing prompt Mondays. They're going to be up every Monday morning, and it's for anyone to join in. It's not schoolwork, it's not homework, it's fun. I just want you to be inspired by my prompts and write down anything you want, basically. And the first one I put up on Monday this week, and it is write a story that is based on a historical mystery that you're interested in. And we have had the most fantastic entries already. They are brilliant stories. We've got like about Cleopatra's tomb and Amelia Earhart, and the Titanic we've had. It's fantastic. And the next one will be up at 9 on Monday, this coming Monday.
Amazing. And if that's something that sounds exciting to you, on Robin's website, which again I'll put down below, there's lots of sort of prompts and ideas and kind of where you might like to start if that's something that you would like to have a go at. Right, I think that's all we've got time for. We are going to be back on Monday with Ross Welford, on Wednesday with Frank Cottrell Boyce, and on Friday we have Kate Young, who she writes cookbooks inspired by books, and she is going to pick out some recipes inspired by children's books that you can make at home with things that you probably have in your store cupboard already, so you don't have to go to the shops for it.
Good idea.
Thank you to everyone who has joined in and asked questions, but the biggest thank you of all is to Robin, who is our first ever book.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being part of it. Have a lovely weekend, everybody, and we will see you on Monday for the next episode. Bye.
Bye.